Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Darwinian Delusions. Today I have a special episode about accepting Islam through gaming, through online gaming, and just generally the idea that how do we reach out to the gaming community? So, if you're from the gaming community, you may have realized that this is a huge online community. And obviously, as practicing Muslims, we need to see how we can influence this particular subculture. So with me today is Yusuf. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, wa alaikum salam. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. So Yusuf, we both had a conversation about this before, that we both have a sort of background in gaming. We used to obviously play a lot more than we do now. But what I thought, play a lot more than we do now. There's a bit of an echo, I think. What I thought, play a lot more than we do now. There's a bit of an echo, I think.
It's your end. It's your end. Sorry, it was me. I had something playing on my phone.
Oh, you had something playing on your phone. Okay, fine. So Yusuf, the first thing I want to ask you is how big is this community, and what do they do?
Huge, isn't it? Well, it's pretty much every young male in definitely the West, and increasingly in other parts of the world as well. I don't know what it is specifically about it that makes everyone kind of flock to it, but it's one of them. And this is the case even within like the Muslim community. I noticed there was a few brothers talking in the chat.
Yeah.
And they were talking about it as well. Me specifically, when I was younger, back in my carefree days, where you didn't have to worry about it having any responsibility or anything like that. There would be hours and hours and hours and hours worth of just non-stop gaming.
Yeah.
And as time has kind of moved on, it's become a lot more complex, a lot more interactive, a lot more sociable as well.
Yeah.
Whereas when I used to game, I just used to do it one-player games on my own offline. That's changed a lot now, and I guess that's probably increased its addictivity.
Yeah.
And so you have I think there's an issue that kind of surrounds it as well, which I guess is what some people get a bit anxious about. But people get lost through gaming as well because of this addiction, and so we definitely need to be able to like interact with these people in some way, while trying to kind of find that balance of not promoting this, like a negative kind of addiction that occurs within the gaming community as well, because people they go on it for hours and hours and hours every day. Like I know people that still today, maybe they'll wake up and they'll start gaming and they'll stop to eat to go to the toilet, and they'll stop gaming when it's time for bed.
Yeah, that was me a few years ago.
Yeah, me a long time ago.
About 15 years ago.
Definitely. But recently I've started, like, I don't know how many of your viewers know this, but I started doing a gaming session once every Saturday.
Yeah.
Just because I needed a bit, like at the moment I've just been kind of not doing anything other than like reading and other stuff. And I needed something to kind of rest with. And so I've given myself an hour and a half once a week where I'll do gaming, but it's only online. And so that's a method. But yeah, it's a way of reaching out to the younger generation. Like they're into it, they're doing it anyway. And at the moment they're watching non-Muslim YouTubers.
Yeah.
So, and they can be quite, so for example, with the Total War game that I'm playing, I don't know, having looked through it, I don't really think I've ever found like a Muslim YouTuber that plays that game. But it's really historical, and it's very interesting because you get an idea of how empires used to interact with one another, and what caused wars to occur, and the difficulty in managing wars, and all of these things. There's a lot of meta stuff involved in gaming. and like we're trying to read The Art of War while I'm playing it as well. And there are things that you can abstract from it which are important and relevant, which you miss when you're just kind of playing it blindly. And so I was thinking of maybe trying to kind of instill a way of getting people to abstract lessons from the games while they're playing it, because it gets you to think tactically. Like even now you watch it. Was this COD or what is it?
Yeah, Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's changed a bit since I used to play it. What one did I play last? I think it was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 or something.
Yeah,
which was a long time ago. But then I evolved beyond Call of Duty and went to the superior game of Battlefield, which is so much better. I don't know if it's any different now because I've not played it in a while. But yeah, there's a lot to be said, because obviously it's a case of trying to find this balance. Gaming is very addictive. As well, now there was someone, funnily enough, sent me a fatwa about PUBG. Apparently, in one of these games, PUBG or whatever it's called,
idol, isn't it?
Yeah, and you kind of have to worship this idol to get better guns and stuff, which is really creepy. And when you've got young kids that are quite impressionable,
yeah,
you could imagine them just kind of unknowingly getting into this kind of behavior. So yeah, there's challenges involved with it. I wouldn't want to just kind of motivate or call for just this kind of blind, let's just game kind of thing. It's something you have to deal with, ironically, tactically.
Yeah.
And then trying to manage it while trying to kind of give positive messages in terms of getting people to manage their addictions. But neglecting it's not helping. Neglecting it sort of just isolates these younger people. If they're constantly being told gaming is wrong, they end up just ignoring the people that keep telling them this, and then they just play and the addiction kicks in.
I just like what Jundullah says here, which is what I'm trying to sort of achieve, which is I rarely play online games. But one time I ended up playing with strangers, got on really well. After they learned I was Muslim, said, "Oh, you're right, you're sound, mate, fair play." So the way I'm thinking about it, Yusuf, is that I'm not promoting online games, but I do believe it's such a incredibly large community in which Muslim youth are there. Muslim, even, I mean, a lot of the gamers are in their like early 30s, right? So it's not just youth. And we just got
30s are still the youth. Don't make me feel old.
From an Islamic point of view, under 40 is definitely still a youth. But what I mean is, actually, no, actually take that back. But generally, Islam has a very liberal definition of youth. But what I meant to say, Yusuf, is you're right. I agree. We don't want to promote it, but because it's already overwhelming, right, and it's already completely a dark pit in which there's no khair from the perspective of I'm not talking about the game content. I'm talking about the communication that happens. If you like, I've been watching a lot. I've been watching these YouTube channels. A lot of swearing, a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of jokes, memes. But in this, friendships are being formed. So we can use this for the sake of Allah and get people to, learn a little bit about Islam in the process as well, inshallah.
Yeah, well, the guy that, the guy that I went traveling with, we were proper online bros before we went traveling. We used to kill it out on Battlefield all the time together. So it's interesting how that kind of works. And there was like this community of people that I used to kind of talk to a lot. You'd end up just you'd find out, we make a pretty good team here. I'll add you as a friend. And then whenever they were online, we tried to like jump on the same team together and figure things out together. So that there is this kind of building of camaraderie that occurs. The issue is just there's, that saying, you only need to stand next to the blacksmith to come away smelling like smoke.
Yep.
Or now when it comes to like the younger generation, or just anyone, I guess, playing games, who is it that's affecting who? Is it the the non-Muslim, obviously this isn't all non-Muslims, but is it the one who likes to swear and talk crude and like get angry and rage when they die and scream and shout and abuse people online? Is it them affecting the Muslims, or are the Muslims affecting them and helping them to calm down and things like that? So I guess all these things have got to be kind of taken into consideration. But I think what might be good, like even if it's just like a once a month thing, if have you heard of a game called Survive.io? It's a nice simple one.
No.
Can I share my screen?
Let me remove this thing. You can share it.
So this is one, I've got it on my tablet and I'll play it from time to time. It's called Survive.io. It's like what are them games called?
But like
you've got a circle and the circle is smaller.
So I want to deal with, and I want your thoughts on things that I'm confused about myself. Right?
You're breaking up, bro.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so like Brother Amin, he's written here, most games contain haram, music, nudity, portraying the Muslims as the bad ones, dirty language. So like, what would your thoughts be if someone said we can't give dawah through this network because of this? What would your response be to that? I'm not saying Amin says that. Just in case.
Yeah. No, I know. Well, it's the same thing with anything really. Like it's the same thing with you like meeting people. I'm playing here now. I don't know if I'm getting panicky because I think I'm going to die. But yeah, it's the same with anything. It's like Speaker's Corner.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Same argument there. You've got all sorts of vile people that go to Speaker's Corner and say mad things. I don't know if my computer just getting slow already. Yeah, they say mad things. I'm used to playing on my tablet. Oh, he's gonna kill me. Reload. How do you? It's the same thing pretty much anywhere.
I mean, the way I think about it is, the fitna that you get on a hot summer's day when you're going to the town center is exactly the same. You get people drinking, you get this, you get that. So it's the same thing essentially. I mean, what's the real difference?
Well, the logic would be is if you were to avoid the gaming, because the thing is it's not like games in and of themselves are haram. Like you can do things like sporting events and other stuff, and with obviously with the more physically demanding games, that's a physical activity. So it's like an exercise. You're getting out. You're active. Games, they can be very mentally active. So you've got to think tactically. You've got to, like, if you're working as a team. So me and you can play this game. You can open this browser. Let's have a look. So if you look here, join team or create a team. So if you go on this game now and open it in your browser, and then you put in this code here, LWAR, capital L, lowercase WAR. You'll jump on my team and we can fight people together. And you're like, if we're online and we're talking, we're going to have to communicate with each other. We're going to have to say, what you go left around this building, I'll go around the right, and then he's not. You've got to think about flanks. You've got to think about tactics and communication. Like all of this is all key in that. And so long as you don't take it too far, and like obviously with this, for example, you can't hear other people talking. If me and you were to play this now, we would only hear each other. And so that's you're actually doing it, buzzing. All right, let's go.
No, that's not me.
Oh, it's not you. Well, someone's joined us. So yeah, you've got to think about these things. And
you know what it is? Online, there's this entire subculture where people rent out other people to play video games with them. At the end of the day, the Prophet ﷺ said, you're on the religion of your friend. Your friends influence you. A guest that's going to come on later on in the show, he actually accepted Islam in Mexico through online friendships with Muslims, and he was playing online games.
Oh.
So I'm just waiting for him to sort of message me. But my sort of point, Yusuf, and I just want your honest thoughts on this, is to Muslims who have concerns about using video games to give dawah, if we say we're not encouraging video games, we're simply saying if you're already online, then you might as well, in a subtle way, and we're not talking about khutbahs or long lectures about necessary being. We're saying just you know like for example, this brother earlier, he said to somebody, I'm Afghan, and somebody replied back, like these small subtle things, they go a long way. They go a very long way.
Yeah,
And
they do.
dawah is, I would call, the subtle passive dawah, stealth dawah. I think it has a role and a place in these video games cultures.
It does, but I don't think we shouldn't be worried still. Because even though we're not necessarily trying, or the intention isn't to try to encourage gaming, you are inadvertently becoming a part of that motivation to game. So like people simply watching us game inevitably are going to use that as a justification for gaming, or a justification for the being on that too much.
Yeah, but don't you think at the same time, just to sort of challenge you on this idea, which you were just obviously just entertaining. Firstly, nobody really can say that they're not already gaming, because I think everybody to an extent is gaming to one.
Yeah.
The second point is nobody's going to watch us and get encouraged to play video games, because if they haven't already been encouraged by the billions of viewers who are continuously watching video games and all this marketing, then us promoting it in a certain way is not going to be like the straw that broke the camel's back, because if they haven't already been sold by the gaming community, when we're speaking about from a dawah perspective, that won't be the deciding factor in them becoming gamers in the first place. Gamers.
No, that's a good point. But there's also this. So the comment you've got up here: most games contain haram, music, nudity, portraying the Muslims as the bad ones, dirty language, etc. Not all of them, of course, but majority. But the main issue with this is that's a consequence of the gaming industry mainly being non-Muslims. Now, if like one of the issues, so you can make mods of games. There's another game I play. It's called RimWorld, and basically it's like this. Let me see if I can pull one version field. It's a really cool game, but like there's all sorts of modifications you can get for it. And it's such a shame because I always thought, it'd be so cool if you could get like Muslim modifications for this, like where you can Islamify the game. And and even with Total War, the game that I'm playing, it's like, I'd love to play the as Scotland, but have Scotland as a Muslim country. So like basically when you're playing as Scotland, you have to build churches, like it's a Christian nation in the game, and there's no option to make them Muslim unless you invade Scotland as a Muslim nation and then conquer it and protect, and move on from there. But I don't know, just this idea of like Islamic modifications which make games haram, that were haram halal, in the sense that where there's things that are like foul language, that there's a community of mods out there who remove that, and in that way, if the kids are going to be playing these games, if you can get a community of people that can deal with these issues rather than just ignoring them, and like because the kids are playing these things, even when they move out and they're like 20 odd years old, they're playing all of this stuff, and if there was an active community of people that were at least giving the Muslim youth the option to play a halal version of that, subhanallah, I think you would see an increase in these games that are not necessarily filled with nudity or foul language and things like that. So like even like now, there's not many Muslim YouTube gamers, and when I'm playing, there's a massive emphasis on just not like, I don't swear, I don't say foul things, like I actively avoid that. And if someone is going to watch games, if they would rather watch mine or me playing Total War, where you've at least got this environment where foul things are not being spoken about, and stuff like that. Because there's another gamer who plays Total War, and his thing or his signature thing is just swearing all the time. And like if you search a Muslim campaign in Total War, he's gonna pop up, and like he's very foul mouthed, and that's his thing. It's normal from where I think he's Australian or New Zealand, from New Zealand or something. And you know, for him and his community, it's quite normal. Like they don't find it strange. But if you're into these kind of games and you just end up watching stuff like that, then you know you're gonna get influenced by it. The swearing becomes normalized. I've noticed this even within certain friendship circles of mine of people who are Muslim. Where members of the family will just swear and they'll say proper horrid things.
Yeah.
And it's like, what makes you? Why are you talking like that? Please, not in front of me, not in front of my daughter, not in front of my family. But they just, it slips out, and it's like, if I don't say anything, you can see that there's no, you know, that it doesn't register to them as a bad thing or a problem. But that's just because they've been desensitized to it. They are like, they're around it all the time. Like everything they engage in has it, and that's probably a consequence of just the neglect of the Muslim community to get involved in the things that these people like to watch. So, i.e., the gaming thing is one of them. Insofar as we're not doing anything.
You know, about this, I wanted your thoughts on a question that Arsalan's asking here. And by the way, guys, anything I'm saying about gaming right now, or maybe Yusuf wants to also agree to this, I'm not giving you guys decisive arguments for or against. I'm just exploring this idea at the moment. So I'm going to put something.
This isn't a fatwa. You can't go away now and use this as evidence for why you should game or not game or whatever. Like we're not scholars.
So something that Arsalan said, and I want to give you something that I've done myself, and I want to just know your thoughts on it. Is how are you going to? So this is in regards to someone saying just waste. By the way, this is campers being killed. This particular, I don't know why I love watching these videos of campers just like getting taken out. Anyway, so someone's talking about, look, you can't train at gym all day. You can only up three. Like you have to do something in your free time. I rather play games than other temptations, and you know, I definitely agree with that. Just so everybody knows, we just had the guest from Mexico, mashallah, brother Rafael.
Wa alaikum
salam.
How are you, brothers?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Very interesting topic that brothers will choose today, mashallah.
Yeah.
So just to let everybody know, Rafael is the IERA lead, the manager in Mexico, outreach specialist. So he heads the team there. And so even though he looks like, you know, a mafia landlord, I mean, his car is famous for being the car that looks like the car that goes around kidnapping kids. And that's but anyway, Rafael's from Guadalajara, which is obviously a proper, you know, like a major city, major center in Mexico. And why I brought him onto the show is not simply because he's Mexican and good looking and has a nice accent. It's because he accepted Islam through online gaming while he was a gamer himself. So Rafael, first time with Yusuf. So, you know, you guys, alhamdulillah, can talk afterwards about this as well. But I'd like you to share how you became Muslim through online gaming.
MashaAllah, nice to meet you, Brother Yusuf. Jazakallah khair, Sabur. Well, the way I accepted Islam was through gaming, like you said. I used to play chess online. There was a few websites that I used to play when I missed the school. I prefer to miss school 1 or 2 classes. I used to study in the afternoon. So I just skipped the school and stayed home playing chess online because my father used to give me and my sisters only 1 hour each to use the computer that we had. We had a desktop and we shared it. So he used to give us just 1 hour. So at that time, everybody was out at home. I stayed alone at home and I used took advantage of the time to play chess online. And that's how... Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, now it's much easier because I don't live with my parents now. I can play chess, and yeah, it's on mobile apps too. I don't play chess too much now. It's been a long time that I didn't play, to be honest. But back then, which was maybe 11, 12 years ago, I did play a lot. So I did go on a few websites, and in one of them, I used to play chess with people from anywhere in the world, and I used to see the flags to see where they were from, and see how good is the people from certain areas of the globe. So there was a time that I played against people from North Africa, and you know some of the flags are they contain the crescent moon and the star, right? So I didn't know what those countries were. So I was wondering, what are these countries? I never heard of them. So I did some research, found that they were Muslim countries, and then that led me to research about Islam. Then I got the Quran. I got a very good translation, which was it was the Quran in Arabic in one side of the book, and in the other side it was translated to Spanish. So I was really amazed by the beauty of the script. You know, the way the Arabic letters are written. It looked beautiful to me, and then the way they refer to God, it was amazing because in Mexico you don't find that kind of respect towards God. You know, Mexicans joke about everything. They make fun of everything. And astaghfirullah, Mexicans even make joke about that. They make jokes about God. They make jokes about the prophets, about anything. So it was something astonishing to see such a high respect towards the prophets, towards God, you know, the Creator. So I was really surprised in a positive way, and I ended up accepting that it was a divine word, that it was the true speech of God. And mashallah, here I am, 12 years later. I'm still a Muslim. I accepted Islam with so many doubts. You know, I was like, okay, I will try to be a Muslim. I have so many doubts. I think all religions are the same, but let me give it a try. If in the future I find out that Islam is false, it's not real, then I'll just leave it. Who's gonna force me to be Muslim, right? So I will just leave it. But see, 12 years later, I never found anything that makes me think Islam is false. It's the opposite. Every time I do more research on Islam, subhanallah, you know, your faith increases every time you learn more about the deen. So, alhamdulillah, here I am.
Mashallah.
Now talking about, you know, dawah through online gaming.
Yes.
We can have a game of chess online one day, inshallah, if you're up for it. A little game and we'll record it.
Yeah, I would never think that actually, even though I accepted Islam this way, I would never thought that this would be a good way of sharing Islam to people. You never know, right? How Allah guides people.
Yeah. And also, I want
Yeah,
to
exactly.
add about what amazes me about Raphael's story is that he didn't just go from, you know, being in Guadalajara where there was no Muslims, where there was no mosque. He actually went on through a series of incidents, a series of what I would call strange incidents, ended up in Medina studying Arabic in the Prophet's city, coming back and running the mosque and running a dawah center and becoming the manager of dawah for IERA in Mexico. So it's just how this worked was, subhanAllah, like a miracle, you know?
Yeah, it's strange how things develop. And like, I don't know about you, Raphael, but when I was younger, I could never have imagined how things would have developed or how like I would have turned out the way I did. And then it makes me wonder as well, like how things might develop in say another 10 years time. Allahu alam, only Allah knows. But it'd be interesting. So what are your thoughts in terms of using gaming as a form of dawah then? Do you think it is a good method or?
Well, I believe we should make use of all the methods available to us because the way I see it, for example, in Mexico, most of the people never heard of Islam. In my case, I didn't know anything about Islam. And I see a lot of people that truly are in need of Islam, right? They really really need it. The way they live, the way they think, the issues they have. If they practice Islam, these issues would be gone. So they truly need Islam, and you never know what chances they have to become a Muslim or to receive the message. So I believe that we should use all the methods available for us to share, like the Prophet ﷺ said, to convey even just one ayah, right? So I was
Yeah.
talking to Subur the other day, and I was like, Subur, this is strange. I would never I would never think that online gaming could be a good way of making dawah. But if you think a little bit about it, there's literally millions of people who do online gaming, right? And you can
Yeah.
see video tutorials on YouTube or even on Facebook. And this has become a trend since a few years ago, and millions of people watch the video games videos. So if you get involved in this somehow, it could make a good impact. What do you think, Brother Joseph?
Yeah, definitely. Like the brother who's commented, video game addiction can also lead to nihilism. Let's point this out too. So this is an interesting point because you have a lot of young people that are addicted to gaming, and they end up suffering from things like depression, and a sense of meaninglessness as a result of that. And that leaves them open to dawah. Like that leaves them at least thirsty for something that can instill a bit of meaning into their lives. And I think the gaming industry is probably the fact that it's doing so well is probably expressive of a number of problems in modern society, where people are they're somewhat, I guess, they're still being social, but it's not the same as active being social face to face with people, and I guess that because of the lack of immediate connections with people, and rather it being constantly through a screen, constantly through something else, it definitely leaves them at least sour about the fact that they spend so much time on these things. And so I think definitely that's something we could think about trying to at least contribute to fixing by implementing at least dawah figures into that, where they can give dawah, where they can give quotes, even if it's like you just said there, Raphael, sharing an ayah off them. When a moment is there and it's relevant, it's an opportunity to kind of spread the word of Islam, talk about the etiquettes. When you're hearing people being abusive, to kind of call away from that. It helps, I think, inshallah. Like it's something to consider anyway, definitely. I don't know. What are the people in the comments saying about it? Do we have yays or nays or?
You can see the comments if you click on the. There's a lot of. I mean, to be honest, I think in the comments there's people who are talking about certain things that I think we all agree with, that leads to excessive gaming, nihilism, mental health from the perspective, I'm guessing, depression. But I wanted to ask you to something that I went through when I was a very hardcore gamer many, many years ago, was I went through this type of crisis where if somebody spoke to me about religion at that time, I think I would have been very receptive. So all I was doing was playing, Metal Gear Solid, GTA games, and you get tired of them, and you get tired of it to the point that you're sleeping at night and you're seeing the images in your head. And if someone came to me at that point who was also a gamer, who was my friend, and he started saying, life is not just about this, there's more to life than this. And still, it's like some even subtle dawah, I think it would have gone a long way. And I think that works for non-Muslims and Muslims. Everyone has this gamer burnout type thing.
Yeah. Because there's someone here that said, where was it? wouldn't video games give depressed people with nihilistic views a reason to look forward to the next good game? For example, many are looking forward to the game called Cyberpunk. Yeah, so the thing is with this attitude of the next good game, is the excitement's only there insofar as the game isn't here yet. And then what you find is when people have been very addicted to games for a very long time, the excitement wears off very quickly. And you always end up having, like, there was what was that game where you could explore an entire universe? What was that one called? No Man's Sky.
All right. Okay.
Have you heard of it? Basically, there was such a hype about this game. It was like, you're going to be able to explore the entire universe, and you're going to be able to do so much, and blah 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 blah. And like, people got so excited about it for so long, and then they brought it out, and like, people just were not happy with it at all. Like, yeah, you had this like really big universe you could explore, but then it just became really repetitive, and like, it really meaningless. Like, you were just doing the same thing, and it just maybe had a different weird animal in there, or a different colored plant, or this, that, and the other. And I think this is a common theme with games, where, because like, I don't know about you, when I was younger, the feeling that games used to give me was immense. Like, I used to be so encaptivated, and this was at a time when I used to play Sega Mega Drive 2, Super Nintendo. Like, these are the old consoles where like there wasn't much going on other than like Sonic would maybe do a spin and a jump, and he'd move from left to right, and that alone was something that used to like capture me and like instill me with awe. And then as I kind of started to get older and older and older, I just don't get that feeling anymore from games. Like, there is this sense of nostalgia for how they used to be, and it becomes more of just like an escape most of the time. And if I want to like just do something and not have to think too deeply about something, I'll go into games. So that's probably another issue we'd need to consider if we're trying to get into this whole thing. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like you said, brother, I think it's like an escape, right? It's like sometimes to give a break to your mind. Maybe you have issues, maybe you have a lot of things to think about, and it can become an addiction. For example, in Mexico, there are many types of addictions. I'm sure you guys have heard of, but and people get these addictions trying to go away from those problems, right? For example, people go to alcohol, people go to drugs because they want to flee away from certain issues. And if I think of my own self back then when I was not a Muslim, I did have some issues, and I wanted to take refuge in something, right? I wanted to escape. So I could have spent literally all day. I could have spent the whole weekend playing video games. And it was a very, how could I say, like a very sensitive time that maybe if I was given the opportunity to read the Quran in another opportunity, in a different time, maybe I wouldn't have been too sensitive when I read the Quran back then, right?
Yeah.
So, subhanAllah, this is a very interesting thing to think about. And the potential that it has, it is huge. There must be millions of Muslims too that play video games, and if the non-Muslims see the etiquettes, of the Muslims, the way we talk, the way we express ourselves, our character can be a way of dawah as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's straight. There's a brother here in the comments as well. Been playing for 2 decades, and I surrounded myself only with gamers, and this shaped my worldview. That this is what my life actually is, hardcore gamer, and I've been feeling the effects of nihilism. Yeah, it's the I repeat this a lot. It's the law of diminishing returns. Like, you rely on something too much to give you this sense of achievement and things like that. Because one of the major things, so for example, Minecraft, you could the annoying thing, I don't know if you have a Steam account, but Steam started doing this thing where they would tell you how many hours you've played on a game, and it wasn't Minecraft on there, but like Total War, like they started telling me these really bad numbers, where when I was younger, I'd spent way too much time on them. And when you've spent so much time in this game trying to build something, like you've built a palace or whatever in Minecraft, or you've gotten to the top level in Skyrim, you're level 100 and everything. Like it gets to a point where you start to feel like, right, I've invested so much time in this, but what have I actually gained from it? And there was someone said something like this, like, man, I'm so successful in my online gaming life. Like I achieved so much on EVE Online. Like I'm the commander of a fleet of ships and so on and so forth. But in real life, I'm a nobody. Like in real life, I've achieved nothing. And that contrast in being really successful on a game, but not in real life, that can be really depressing for people as well. And so I guess it's just a case of taking these things into consideration, that there is this gaming community, and I can guarantee that there are many, many people feeling the effects of the things that I'm kind of outlining here. And these are the type of people that are like thirsty for something. And, you know, the fitra is going to be calling out for something bigger and better than what they're doing there. And if you imagine how much more successful they'd have been had they have invested that time in trying to make themselves successful in the real world rather than just on these computer games. And even if our presence is just on there, at least say like once a month, we get like a dawah team together and we do some sort of online game thing. And, you know, we call people to Islam while we're playing it. You know, it's not simply just us playing it mindlessly, not talking about anything. You know, but expressing Islamic principles and etiquettes and so on and so forth. I think that you'd be surprised at the impact that it could have on these people feeling the effects of nihilism, feeling the effects of, you know, gaming addiction, etc. I think they're thirsty for it. They need it, and because this is the issue as well, because their lives revolve around gaming. They're not sociable people. They're not going outside. Dawah stalls are not going to be a way to get to these people. Yeah. Because they're stuck in their houses, they're stuck in their bedrooms on a TV. This is where they do their socializing. This is where they communicate with the outside world through games. And if you want to reach this community, the only way you're going to do that is by getting on them games with them. So that is something you need to consider.
Yeah, this is something I wanted to chime in here. We just lost Raphael for a few minutes. I wanted to chime in here that it's completely delusional, I believe, to ignore this community.
Yeah.
You said something that really struck a nerve with me, Yusuf. You said, look, at the end of the day, these people, they're not, I don't remember your words exactly, they're not, you know, looking or having, or they're having debates with us about something. They're just on a TV and they have no idea. They're just in a complete different paradigm. And I have family who are big time into games, and you know, they're completely away from this. It's like they live in their own universe, right?
Yeah.
And they're happy there. They're playing video games, and to be honest, even with some Muslim parents, I've given the advice that if your children are playing video games, at the moment with the world outside, there's so much fitna outside that it's sometimes better to have your children playing video games at home than be outside on the streets doing madness, right?
Well, this is what my mum would constantly say. Like, she would be so relieved, and I hear this as well with even like my neighbors and other parents. Like, they can be so relieved that their children are gamers because they don't have to worry about them. They know they're safe. They're in the house. They'll bring up a sandwich every now and then to the kids, and like, oh, he's safe. He's fine. He's there. There's nothing hurting him. And especially if you live in like scarier environments, like, you know, like in certain parts of London, for example. The last thing a lot of parents want is their kids going outside and getting involved in the gang culture that's quite prevalent in certain places. And gaming keeps them away from that.
It's the best of two evils. You know, it kind of reminds me of there being a time in which Ibn Taymiyyah and Imam Jawzi, they were walking around, and there were some people who were drunk, and Ibn Jawzi said, let's tell these people not to drink. And these were supposed Muslims that were very only Muslim, like liberally. And Ibn Taymiyyah said no, because when they're not drunk, they actually go around like killing people. So let them get just drunk off their heads. So Video games are like the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. But there's a brother here or sister, I'm not sure. Furious Fist. Can you bring that one up?
Yeah.
If you scroll up a little bit.
Stamp is that?
744. That's the one. Not gonna lie, it seems like you guys are pretty biased over gaming. I don't know if they mean against or for. Addiction is different to actually liking a hobby. We need entertainment. If gaming causes harm, so does many other forms of entertainment. Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's that even good things can be harmful. Like if drinking too much water can be harmful. You can drown, like from engaging in too much drinking. But obviously, it's a necessity. He's made a good point. You do need entertainment. You do need times to wind down. The brain requires it. You need rest. You need, games can be fun. It's all about moderation. It's all about not doing it too much.
Yeah. I'll give you an example, Furious Fist, and this is something I'm very passionate about. I always tell young people, don't be extreme in the religion. What I mean by extreme is not joining the Taliban or Al-Qaeda or ISIS or something. What I mean is that, of course, we know is completely unacceptable in Islam. But what I mean is killing yourself to a point of, right, everything is haram except what's halal, and forcing yourself into this thing of, okay, no entertainment, not this, go to the mosque, pray, and just do this. I don't believe that's sustainable.
They call it burnout, don't they? They say when a lot of people, they get into this mentality, they end up burnt out, they end up hating it, and then they become murtads. Like there's a lot of examples of people that go too extreme into the religion, and then they offer themselves no respite, no opportunity to kind of like do anything because everything's haram, everything's like they don't see, they look at things too black and white, and then they give themselves no opportunity to kind of like enjoy life or wind down in a moderate way without going into an extreme in something, and then they just give up the religion completely as a result of that.
Absolutely. I'll give you an example which is extreme here in London. There's a particular, I'm not sure I'm looking so dark, the light in this office is getting darker. So there's a particular brother here in London who, he was young, he was practicing, and he went to the extreme, like, okay, everything's haram, don't listen to this group, and just being very sectarian as well, and just, Quran and Sunnah, I'm not going to listen to anything else, I'm not going to even listen to other Muslim speakers, they have to be of a certain kind. He just had this mindset. And he was very much like into rigidity, mechanical type of worship, and just continuous. The brothers told me this guy went AWOL. He regularly used to come to places of knowledge, regularly used to listen to lectures and do this and that and learn the Quran and this. And then, because he was very, very extreme all the time, Islam, right? And the brothers told me about how long ago is this? I'm trying to remember. Well, anyway, the guy just went AWOL one day, just flipped. And the next thing you know, like he had pictures of himself at very dodgy places with pretty much naked women on Instagram in public, right? So he literally just switched
180.
What I was told by the brother is he somehow got into the community of, where you get meetups with porn stars, right? So he was taking pictures with these whatever you want to call them, and putting down Instagram. Like the guy just completely switched, and this is here in London. So I always tell people, don't impose your piety on others, right? And remember that we're living in times of such fitna. We have to play this lesser of two evils type of game, right?
Yeah.
And you really have to. I mean, I personally don't even think all video games are haram. I don't believe that. Chess or I mean, what's this other thing that you were playing today? I mean, a lot of things. I mean, I'm as a person, I always try to look at the lesser of two evils, which is Islamic, and my own children. My plan is not to, force them into such a corner about Islam that they completely flip out. And this, I believe, leads to apostasies as well, guys.
Yeah.
Raphael, thank you for coming back. We had some urgent call. So
I'm going to have to run now as well, guys. But
thank you so much, Yusuf.
No, thank you for having me on. Jazakallah khair. May Allah protect us from any kind of evils with these things. But it's been a pleasure. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You can both do some online gaming things together in terms of.
Yeah, we'll have a game of chess, inshallah. I'll have you a game. We'll do a live, like 10-minute clock one, where you've got 10 minutes on either side.
Inshallah.
You're up for it, inshallah.
Assalamu
alaikum.
So, I didn't really get, time to probe you on some of these things, Raphael. But the thing is, this gaming community, when we look at videos of these gamers, people, we're talking about billions of viewers, billions. The biggest YouTube channels in terms of culture in the world is games. The biggest culture, which has created its own social media, Twitch, right, is again the gamers. So for Muslims to ignore this market, I think would be absolutely gross negligence in terms of the dawah. What do you think about that?
That's true, brother. I agree with you. There's millions and millions of people out there who never heard the message of Islam. So imagine if, let's say, 5%, even just 1% of that community embraced Islam, that would be a huge amount of people. For example, in Mexico, there must be dozens of millions of people playing video games. Sometimes, you get on Facebook, for example, some ads or suggested videos, and most of the videos right now are people gaming. Yep. And you see the viewers, and you count them by 100,000, 200,000 viewers at the same time. So the impact that this community has is huge, and this is something very important to consider, because Muslim community have never looked into this aspect, and the impact could be huge. And like I was telling Brother Yusuf, we all are in need of Islam, right? So we shouldn't neglect anybody just because he's a gamer, or he's a musician, he's this and that. We all make sense, right? So we should consider everybody in conveying the message of Islam.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Raphael, is to do with the fact that millions of gamers are actually Muslim, and the only thing that we need to do is simply come to terms with the fact that it's not whether we like it or not, it's not whether it's beneficial or not, it's just got to do with the reality that gamers exist, and a large proportion of those gamers are from the Middle East and from Asia and from Muslim communities in Europe, and we simply need to take advantage of that rather than be in denial and try to stop them.
Absolutely, yeah, that's the reality. It's not something that we can change, right? And sometimes the way I see it is, it's a matter of mental health sometimes too. Because like you were saying, if you spend all your day, like the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, with the three guys the guy who wanted to fast every day, and then the guy who, give me 1 second.
Yeah, the person wanted to fast every day, and he went to an extreme, and these things don't really work. So guys, we're going to be coming to the last couple of minutes of this show, but I do want everybody to just recognize I'm not giving any fatwas, nor is anybody else. I'm just exploring this idea. I've had a bunch of gamers basically message me after I put out a tweet asking for help. So guys, absolutely, I'm gonna get in contact with people who are really interested in this, we have to do the best we can, and I need your help, and Raphael also needs your help, and we need your help in how best we can actually do this.
Yes, brother. Yes, we should take this into consideration, and we should be mindful that we all need some type of escape to the realities that we live. And like sorry that I had to interrupt the hadith that I was saying, that the guy who wanted to fast every day, the guy who wanted to pray every night, the guy who wouldn't want to be married to a woman. So if you practice Islam to the extreme, it's going to overwhelm you, right? We are not in an extreme that you are neglectful, but you are not in the other extreme that you practice too much also. But you have to have a time for Allah. You have to have a time for your family. You have to have a time for your own self. And I'm not saying we should all be gamers, right? Of course not. But this is something that we should consider, that there's millions of people out there who are in need of Islam. So we should find a way to convey the message of Islam to them too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And your story is a testament to that, because when you contacted these people, they didn't say to you, "I'm here to play video games. Don't talk to me about religion." It's just a natural thing. You're friends with somebody, and you can just talk to them, and it leads to discussions about whatever you want to discuss, including religion.
Exactly. Yeah. For example, in Mexico too, even with the non-Muslims, sometimes we gather to do something. Not how can I say? For example, to play football online, especially now that we cannot gather physically, we cannot make gatherings, but we can play online. Maybe play one game with them, so that we are still in contact, and it's not everything religion related,
Yeah.
Because when a new Muslim comes to Islam, it can be very difficult to change all the environment that they have, change everything for Islamic environment. Especially in Mexico, we have the Islamic environment. It's very rare that you have a mosque near your house. It's very rare that you have other Muslims in your city. So you have to find, the healthiest alternatives.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And also, this kind of reminds me, Raphael, of that not only did you find out about Islam through online, in your own city, when you physically tried to look for Muslims, you couldn't really find them. But online, that thing would not have been difficult. And this is also true with Andres, who accepted Islam from Uruguay. And there's less than 100 Muslims in the country of Uruguay, that he found somebody giving him dawah from Manchester. So it's just a case of whether it's an online community or an offline community, whoever's going to talk to you about Islam, you're going to take advantage of that.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes we tend to negative. Like the other day, we were studying the tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah Subhanahu wa Taala creates Adam, and the angels question Allah, right? They say, so you're going to create a being that is going to spread, bloodshed, and that is going to spread corruption. And Allah says that He knows best, and He creates humanity. So in many things that we're going to find, pros and cons, but we have to find positive ways of doing the best we can, right? Even in our own selves.
Absolutely, and I definitely agree with that. And I just wanted to, because we only have 2 minutes left of the show, I just wanted to share something with you, Raphael.
Yeah.
On Facebook, a brother from Brazil started talking to me a few years ago. And what was really surprising is that he'd been Muslim for 1 year. He converted to Islam. He lives in a village in Brazil. He's never met a Muslim before. He's never shaken hands with a Muslim before. He'd never entered a mosque before. Yet he'd been Muslim for 1 year. He was praying, fasting, doing everything that Islam requires of you. But all of his interaction was actually only with Muslims online. And what's really surprising is he was even involved in making online dawah videos to promote Islam from his remote village in Brazil.
MashaAllah.
That's the world that we're living in,
MashaAllah. Yeah, absolutely. That's the world we are living in. We have to adapt. We cannot stay hiding in our places, right? Inside of our homes, doing nothing, not sharing Islam, because the environment is not the one we want. We have to go out there and convey the message. That's going to help change the environment, right? If we do our best, of course, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala might help us if we change our condition, inshallah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to end upon, Raphael, what's your message about Muslims who are already gamers? We're not encouraging gamers, but they are online and there's people who they interact with or are friends with who are non-Muslim. What is your message to them?
Well, take advantage of this platform. That if you are already a gamer and you have hundreds, thousands of followers, then use this to spread the message of Islam.
Yeah.
If I guide somebody through you, that's going to be better than everything that you can find in this world. So we should take advantage of every mean that we have to our reach, and gaming it's another mean, right? So if you are already using this mean, take the most of it, take advantage of it, and share the message of Islam to non-Muslims.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Raphael, for joining in this live stream. For everybody watching, take away that message. And remember, the person that you may give dawah to subtly through video games, that person may end up becoming a much better Muslim than you. And that could be your means of entering Jannah. And at the end of the day, our aim is to enter Jannah, inshallah. So just remember that, it's not that I'm not pious, I'm not this. Just do what you can, because Allah is the way you expect. If you expect Allah to be like a really strict accountant, yeah, then that's what you've created. If you are going to accept what Allah says about Himself in the Quran, and Allah introduces Himself by these two names, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, then you will understand that maybe Allah will completely give you Jannah based upon your little interaction with somebody online that changes someone's life, like it changed the life of Raphael by him accepting Islam through somebody giving him dawah through online gaming. So Jazakallah khair, Raphael, for joining the show, and inshallah I want to have you again, and this time possibly me and you playing a game of that game that Yusuf had earlier. I don't know what it was, but it's quite interesting. And I'd like to see if I can beat you because when me and Raphael were in Latin America, we were discussing whether Pakistanis or Mexicans can eat more chili. And I'm very sorry to let all the Pakistanis know that I lost the flag. The Pakistani flag went on the floor and the Mexican flag. I couldn't handle the chilies. And yeah. Actually, I remember. I think I lost in Chile. When me and him were traveling, I think we lost in Chile when we were in. No, we lost. I lost in Colombia.
Yeah, it was Colombia, Bogota.
Oh, yes, because me and Raphael, alhamdulillah, we traveled to. How many countries did we travel to in Latin America, bro?
There were 7 in Central America and then Ecuador and Colombia.
Oh my God, we gotta tell people about the time that you were freaked out when you saw the plane. Do you know what, guys? I have to tell you this. Yeah, I have to tell you this really funny story. Raphael, you're good with time, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to tell you guys this hilarious story. Right? So we were traveling from. Let me remind myself again. We were traveling from Belize to Guatemala, right? We were traveling from Belize to Guatemala, right? So we went to the airport, and Raphael, what did we see on the tarmac when we went to the airport?
I remember we were in the airport and we found just small airplanes, so we were getting scared because you didn't find the regular planes, big airplanes. You find just a small, tiny airplane, right? So we were extremely scared. Like, what's going on here? Where are we going? And it was in the middle of the jungle, right?
It was right in the middle of the jungle. It was a really scary experience, to be honest with you, because that plane didn't look like it could fly, to be honest. It was an 8-man plane, just to let everybody know. And what I'll actually do is next time we'll start with that story because I can't find the pictures. But I actually have pictures of the plane. I actually have pictures of Raphael leaving the plane, which looks like a drug cartel because it's a little plane and he's walking off, and the clothes he's wearing, he looks like he's a cartel boss. But anyway, we'll start with that next time, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Raphael, for joining us.
Thank you, brother. Jazakallah khair for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Inshallah. Wa alaikum salam.
And we